be a slightly shorter session in my opinion, because we're going to talk about a specific idea which is called attitude of gratitude. Now, gratitude is a sort of a buzzword which has been going around quite a bit in the last 2 or 3 years. And there are lots of different interpretations and understanding in terms of what it is, and different understandings in terms of how it ties into the larger scheme of things. So what I've tried to do is take one step back and look at really, if you look at most of us in terms of our pursuit, what we try and pursue is in some form of another. I mean, I don't want to quibble here and say, is it fulfillment or happiness, or is it something else? I mean, I'm just going to use all these words synonymously and call ideas like happiness or joy or fulfillment or satisfaction and all that synonymously, and not necessarily nitpick and understand which one is what. And what we generally try to pursue is this whole idea of happiness. For a very, very long period of time, happiness was always thought of as two things. From the time of Aristotle, or even before that, when we go back to, Artha Kama and Dharma Moksha, if you look at those things, it has been thought of as one, a hedonia, which is more the Artha Kama part of it, which is pleasure seeking. A pleasure seeking could be material. It could also be something which provides us a certain kind of gratification. It could be a good meal. It could be anything else which provides us a certain amount of gratification and pleasure. The other one is what is called a eudaimonia. Eudaimonia is a sense of life well lived. Okay. Because ultimately, given that we have a limited amount of time in this particular world, is it a life well lived or not? It's something which everybody questions at some point in time or the other, in terms of what am I doing with my life? Am I living it to my full potential? Is it a life worth living? And all those questions come up. So you always try and understand happiness in terms of, if a person has the right amount of pleasure seeking and the right amount of a sense of life well lived, then it was thought to be a happy life. Then came the advent of what is called positive psychology. Positive psychology, if I'm not mistaken, is a term which was coined by Martin Seligman himself, who was the head of Positive Psychology Institute for a very long period of time. He was a president or something like that. And he's done plenty of work in the space of positive psychology, Dr. Martin Seligman. Okay. So a lot has been improved upon hedonia, eudaimonia, and there have been a new theory on happiness itself. Now, if you look at that new theory on happiness, which was the original theory, which was propagated by Martin Seligman, he called it a happiness model, where he said there are 3 types of life we lead. One he calls as what is called a pleasant life. A pleasant life is something where we feel a sense of joy, a sense of ecstasy, optimism. We feel loved and we engage in pleasurable activities. And every activity gives a certain amount of pleasure, and that's a pleasant life. The other type of life is what is called an engaged life. In fact, the pleasant life, they measured pleasant life in terms of actually getting a few participants and then pinging them at every 1 hour. And they will have to say, how do they feel at this point in time? And they continue to measure to do some studies and everything else. Now, if you look at the second one, which is called the engaged life. Engaged life, we have spoken about flow, the Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's idea of flow, where you have to be at the optimum level of both challenge and in terms of your competence. And if you're able to get into a high challenge in your area of highest competence, then you can be in a state what is called flow, and that's about an engaged life. Strangely enough, when people are asked when they are in deep engagement, when they were asked in terms of how are you feeling, similar to the pleasant life, most people said, I don't feel anything. Okay. The reason is when you're in flow, you're one with the activity which is going on, and you really don't have a object-subject difference. You're fully integrated. That's the whole idea of flow itself. They are feeling an inner sense of joy and happiness, but that inner sense of joy and happiness is quite different from watching a good movie or having a good meal or spending time with friends or having an, developing a plan or being optimistic. It's quite different from that. The third one is what is called a meaningful life. A meaningful life is that questioning which all of us do in terms of what is my purpose? Why am I here? What am I planning? What am I doing with my life? And is there something which is larger than just myself, of going from one day to another, to another, to another, into the grave one day? Is there something which is a larger purpose to my life, which provides meaning, which provides purpose? Somebody who spends their life on that is called a meaningful life. Most people try to integrate all these three things. So the Martin Seligman's model on authentic happiness is something where he says, if you're able to synthesize and integrate all these three, you can achieve the optimal level of happiness. This was a model which was going on for a fair number of years, till it was pointed out to Martin Seligman in one of his lectures, saying that, what about this whole thing called success and mastery? A lot of people like to do things for winning's own sake. Okay, so if I've published a paper in a journal, if I'm a professor and I'm publishing a paper, I would like to publish one more, not because it gives me a sense of pleasantness, not because that will be the most meaningful activity, maybe not even because that will be the most engaged thing, because I like the success and the recognition and the things which come along with it, not necessarily rewards and monetary rewards. There is a sense of joy which comes from accomplishment. And that was missing in this particular happiness model. Then Martin Seligman's newest happiness model is what he calls as a well-being model rather than a happiness model, in the sense that there are a few things which are a tad different in terms of measure. It is life satisfaction in the authentic happiness theory. Here it is about measuring positive emotion, engagement, positive relationship, meaning and accomplishment. Okay. This kind of a theory is a lot more closely linked and aligned to the Yogaksema's goal of improving quality of life. What is this model? This model, also called the PERMA model, is about 5 things. PERMA. P stands for positive emotions, which is, I'll come to that in a second. The second one is engagement. Engagement, we don't have to go further into that. We kind of understand what it is. It's pretty much the flow, which is engagement. R is about relationship. I'll come back to that. Fourth, we won't speak any more on that, which is meaning and purpose. And finally, accomplishment. Now, positive emotions is something where there is a ratio which is called the Losado ratio. Okay, a Losado ratio was done by 2 professors, and the Losado ratio is essentially about how many positive words or emotions do you get divided by the number of negative words or emotions you get, and what that ratio is, and an optimum ratio. In fact, they have conducted studies in terms of marital relationship. If a Losado ratio is not greater than 3 in a marital relationship, it is likely to fail, and stuff like that have been worked out. It's a ratio which is called a Losado ratio, but it essentially, positive emotions is about how do you generally feel? Are these feelings of pleasure, joy, optimism, vitality, energy, and zest? Or is it about a whole set of negative emotions? That's critical when it comes to positive emotion. That is the part. The third one is relationships. Relationships is not about how many people I know. That is the network. It is not about how many Facebook friends I have. Okay. It is about how many deep, meaningful relationships do I have. Usually, deep, meaningful relationships will not cross 10 or 12 people. So the deeper, meaningful relationships have been found to be a tremendous indicator of good health and longevity. Some of you might have come across this Harvard study, which is what is called a longitudinal study, which has been going on, I think, from 1936, which has been going on for close to 85 years, which is they interviewed a bunch of Harvard students, and they have continued to go back to the same set of students all the way to find out how their happiness levels are, and they have measured various happiness levels. So despite some of them falling physically quite ill, some of them losing their job, some of them getting bankrupt in their organizations, people who had very, very strong relationships, deep, meaningful relationships, have been found to be happier, and they are likely to live longer as compared to other people. It has been found to be the single most important indicator of happiness as well as longevity and good health. Fourth is meaning and purpose. We understand that quite well. And finally, accomplishment, which is been there, done that, bought the t-shirt kind of a feeling, whatever it might be. Okay. And that is about accomplishment. Now, what we did was we took the PERMA model and put it in some kind of a framework, okay, and called it a sort of a well-being model, where the three circles are really purpose. A purpose has to have elements of, it has to be bigger and beyond us. Second one is in terms of the engagement and flow. And third, in terms of accomplishment, all in an environment of good relationship and positive emotions. Now, if you look at this, if there is a large purpose in what you do, but there is really no flow or engagement, and there is no accomplishment, it is something like a volunteer in an organization which is shooting for a bigger cause. Okay. The second is where there is accomplishment, but there's really no greater purpose or engagement in it, which is the role of an executive, somebody who's working for the money, for the promotions, and for the recognition, for the rewards and the accomplishment, and so on. Any executive in any organization, including schools. The third one is where we feel that oneness with the process, whether it could be cooking or knitting or playing music or any of those kinds of things, but there might or might not be great accomplishment which we are looking for in that, or a greater purpose. Now, a bit like Ikigai, I mean, this is something we had put together before the Ikigai, which I think is almost a better model than this one, the Ikigai one. But we kind of put it together about 8-10 years back before Ikigai became quite famous, which is if purpose and engagement are there as neighborhood social work, professional sports, activist, large NGO executive, and finally, if you're able to integrate all of this, which is the whole PERMA, which is purpose, engagement, accomplishment, positive emotions, and good relationships, then we are looking at what is called the happy, fulfilled, truly good well-being kind of a place. One second, there is, which category would a surgeon or a scientist come under? Probably an executive.
That's what I wanted to ask, but that's also, there's a larger drive for them to find a solution or problem solving or larger good for the society. So would they still come under executive, or would it be more under flow?
No, flow is the way your competence and your challenge integrates. So flow can be achieved by an executive, it can be achieved by a surgeon, it can be achieved by a scientist, it can be achieved by anybody, provided they are pushing themselves to operate at the most optimum level of their competence, which is like bordering on impossibility, where you're at the highest point of your competence, and taking up challenges which are along with that is likely to take you into flow. There is also a purpose in the case of surgeon or scientist, but honestly, purpose again can be created even for other things. But very unlikely it can be created for people who I would say are typical executives in an organization, it's very difficult. Organizations do write something called a purpose and everything else. It's very, very difficult for large organizations to be able to engage somebody because of their purpose. Whereas in the case of a surgeon, it can be about saving lives and everything else. But I read somewhere in the case of a surgeon, we have a direct impact in terms of whether you saved a life or not. And therefore, we think of it as a life-saving job. But if you talk about yourself, Vidya, you are performing a life-saving job as well. I mean, the number of teachers, number of students you're coming in contact with, and the number of students you've been able to take to a different level from where they are, that is equally important. Okay, in surgeon's case, the attribution is a more direct thing, and therefore it feels like a much more important job. It is. I'm not minimizing the job of a surgeon or a doctor, but that way, other than executives, who've been a part of making potato chips or or Coca-Cola or something like that, where the sense of purpose is really not there unless we twist our mind and kind of imagine something. It's not there. But for people like teachers, scientists, engineers, doctors, surgeons, the sense of purpose is very direct. The sense of purpose can be quite direct. Right. So we're going to try and integrate three things here. So the first thing is I want to park the happiness model, which is essentially the PERMA model on one side.
Bama has raised her hand.
Then Bama raised her hand.
Yeah.
Yes, Bama?
Yeah. So I know many homemakers who just take care of their home very well.
Yeah.
But then they don't have any other goal or any other purpose except to take care of their family. But still they are very, very happy. So very contented. So where would you put them? Like,
yeah. Contented might be a mechanism of reconciliation also, Bama, sometimes. Okay. So it is sometimes a mechanism of reconciliation. Again, a homemaker, I don't want to minimize, but to be able to find purpose, meaning, of course, we can say my child is my purpose, and what provides meaning is taking care of my child. We can say that, but chances are that won't be able to get us to the optimum level of happiness. I mean, that's my limited view.
Yeah, because they seem to be happy. It's my view also. I'm not content with just taking care of. I keep wanting to do something different, something more. I'm not able to be satisfied with. But then I know many people who are like extremely happy. Yeah. And so that's why I just asked. Yeah.
Okay. I will point you in the direction of a person. We will talk about him just briefly. Tal Ben Shahar is his name, where he talks about happiness. He doesn't bring it exactly like this. Contentment is a bit different from true joy. So contentment, that's why I said contentment is probably also a form of reconciliation. In some of those cases, it is better not to open up too much. If you open it, people will realize there are seeds of unrealized dreams which are there inside the person. And once you open that and we don't have a solution, we are better off not opening that box itself. So contentment is also about keeping boxes which are unopened. Okay, and happiness is also not about not pushing ourselves. We can push ourselves, go to an extreme and fail from there. Even then, it gives us that sense of joy and fulfillment and meaning and purpose. But what is the final outcome in something like that? It is probably in a more traditional sense, we failed in that particular operation or the mission or something like that. It can still give us that. Okay. Yeah, that is my 2 cents. I wished Ushanti were here, where she can probably provide a bit more into that. Yeah. Okay. Then we move to another aspect, which is called the 4 happiness archetypes. Okay. Now, the archetypes of happiness, this is Tal Ben Shahar's work, where he says that essentially there are 4 types of people. Okay. The one, what he calls as a nihilist. A nihilist is someone okay, who has no energy for the current and no energy for the future either. Okay, so the future is seen very pessimistically, and the current is seen as, nothing is seen very cynically, or nothing is going to happen. What is the point? This life is a complete waste, and this world will never improve. This government is useless, and all those kinds of things. Is basically everything about tomorrow and today is negative, which is a thing which is called nihilist. And I sincerely hope none of us is a nihilist here. The second one is what is called a hedonist. A hedonist is about short-term pleasure seeking. Okay, you get tremendous short-term pleasure going and having a party, if you enjoy a party, not people like me. So if you're going and having a party, or or going and binge watching, or having a large drink, or watching a movie, or whatever else it might be, or eating, or any of those things, which is pleasure seeking, strongly pleasure seeking, which is strongly positive now with no regard whatsoever for the future. The third one he puts across as what is called a rat racer. A rat racer is someone where we keep thinking that, okay, I have to go through this struggle and this problem and this stress and this difficulty and everything else. But you know what? If I do all this, I will get promoted. If I do all this, I will pass and there is a glorious future. If I do all that. So everything is in the future, and we are rat racing and continuing to hurt the today in search for a better tomorrow. The fourth one is what he calls as happier. He specifically chose the word happier rather than happy because it's a process. It's a more verb kind of a thing rather than a destination or a place to be. So what he calls as happier. This is all Tal Ben-Shah's work. Okay. Now from that, we have derived a couple of things from that, saying what is the quandary of a rat racer? Okay, a rat racer is someone who is giving up the today in search of a better tomorrow. So what we end up doing is we often do things both personally and professionally that we don't quite like, and also something which stresses us out. We go to a job and we come back and say, it's such a stressful job the whole day. Then in which case we ask the question, why don't you quit? No. But at the same time, if I do this and then there will be this and that will happen. So all the rewards are in the future, but we are kind of living every day and losing every day, while all the rewards in the future, we don't know whether it is going to accrue, but we imagine at least it will get accrued. And I sincerely hope for people who are giving up today, there is at least a reward tomorrow. And that's the rat racing kind of a situation. So we tell ourselves, I'm doing all this because it will secure me a happier future. It could be money, it could be wealth, promotion, retirement, whatever. Okay, it's a much more secure and a glorious or a beautiful future which we envision, and therefore we are willing to go through the difficulties we are going through today and the stress and all that issues. Now we can't avoid going through the problems today if you are a rat racer. So to distance ourselves from the current pain, we can't avoid the pain. We can't overcome the pain, but we can distance ourselves from the pain. The way to distance ourselves from the pain is we can engage in hedonistic activities. We can plonk in front of the television and watch it and numb ourselves till we fall asleep, or we stress eat and have such a large meal, we again fall off, or have alcohol, or any of those things, or binge drinking, or any of those things. We can do any of those things so that it creates a certain amount of distance between our pain and us, and creates a certain illusion of the pain having overcome, for it only to return next morning, and then we have to go to work, go through the stress, and life continues like that. And we sort of somewhere reconcile. If you look at an executive's life, we sort of rationalize and reconcile, saying that, okay, a combination of rat racing and hedonism is equal to happiness. Okay, my work is very stressful and everything else, but I come back and then I have a nice drink and I plonk in front of the television or have a good meal and life is good. And the next day again, I have to go through a bit of stress and everything else. And we kind of approximate it to happiness, because rat racing is about a good future, compromising the today. Hedonism is about having a good today and not really bothering with tomorrow. We kind of think of it and rationalize it and say we are somewhere in a place which is reasonably high on both those counts. So common phrases like work hard and party hard and all that falls in this category. Okay. And ideas like, I'm so stressed, I really need to, watch some television to unwind and relax and everything else. What is unwind? What is relax? I mean, work should be relaxing and unwinding anyway by itself. But if it is not, we have to think about what is that which is going on with the work itself. Are we rat racing? And I'm not saying rat racing is avoidable. All of us have done it. I've done it for many years. So all of us do it. But rat racing, we should understand at least we are in rat racing and not something else. Work hard and party hard and all that falls in this category, which is called thriving. Thriving is nothing but another form of survival, and it is not necessarily evolving. Okay. This particular cartoon pretty much captures for me most of it. Okay. Where a horse is telling the other one, I keep thinking one more hurdle and I'm going to be happy. Okay. And we keep jumping. We keep jumping from one to the next, to the next, to the next, and one more hurdle. Javed Akhtar had a beautiful poem, I remember. All of us want one more than what we already have. Okay, you ask somebody who is 5'6", ask them, how tall are you? They'll say, I'm 5'7". They won't say I'm 6 feet. They won't say I'm 5'5". They will always add 1 inch. You go to somebody who has a 3-bedroom house and ask them, they'll say, if I had a half more bedroom, no, that will be very nice. I can put my guests and everything there. You have a car which is this size, you go to a car which is a little larger than that. So Javed Akhtar says, we all want one little bit more than where we are. Okay. And of course, in his beautiful Urdu, I can't repeat that, but I read it somewhere. It's beautifully written in terms of just that one more is what we need. Keep thinking one more hurdle and I'm going to be happy. But true happiness doesn't work that way. True happiness works quite differently, where it has to come from a simultaneous healthy balance between the future and the present. So happiness necessarily has to be thought of more as a verb rather than a noun. It is not a destination. It is not a place to be. It is not a place to reach, rather a way to be. And as far as happiness is concerned, almost 50%, research tells us, almost 50% of our happiness is correlated with our thoughts and behavior. Only 10% is circumstances. 40% is genetic. We can't do much about it. Okay, there we have to tell the serenity prayer and leave it there. We can't do much about the 40%. Even the 10% we can't do much about, because circumstances for us are broadly given. Okay, our parents, our children, our spouse, our job, and most of our things are pretty much given, and therefore we can't do much about the circumstances. But through our thoughts and actions and behavior, we can significantly alter our level of true happiness. Okay. And Tal Ben-Shahar says this: attaining lasting happiness requires we enjoy the journey on our way towards a destination we deem valuable. So happiness is not about making it to the peak of the mountain, nor is it about going around aimlessly. Okay, making it to the peak of a mountain and only that is driving you is rat racing. Walking aimlessly and saying, forget about the peak and everything else, let's just enjoy ourselves, just chill out here, and that's hedonism. How do we chill out on our journey towards a certain peak is where he says the simultaneity of the short term and the long term have to be integrated, and that is where we are likely to find true happiness. Okay, now that's the second concept. The first one is the happiness model. The second one is this hedonist, nihilist, rat racer, and happier. Third, I promise I will integrate all the three. The third one is something we have seen in the past, which is the negativity bias. What is the negativity bias? We said we are all born with negativity bias, okay? Because from an evolutionary biology point of view, you're better off having negativity bias than not. And negative thoughts stick like Velcro, and positive thoughts wash off like Teflon. And the way negativity or ants impact our life is the past is full of regrets and lost opportunity. The current is unsatisfactory and inadequate. And the future is about anxiety and pessimism. Now, these ants have a bit of a triple whammy embedded in them. What is the triple whammy? The first, a majority of our thoughts, the 65, 70,000 thoughts we get in a day, a majority of them are negative thoughts. Second, these thoughts stick like Velcro, and the positive thoughts wash off like Teflon. Third, the negative thoughts we know are mostly false, but we assume it to be true, or we make theories. That's how ants build up. Now, in the last couple of sessions, we saw through the process of CBT and mindfulness, we can do something about the negative thoughts not sticking. So we have the ideas of metacognition, mindfulness, and all the other CBT techniques. We can do something about the true or false test and subjecting it to a form of testing where we know whether these thoughts, while the thoughts are real, are they true or not? We can subject it to some kind of a test. But can we do something about a large majority of our thoughts being negative thoughts? Because ants is a key ingredient to happiness, and we know happiness works by simultaneous happiness in the present and in the future, that the journey of climbing the mountain peak has to be as joyous, as chilled, as enjoyable as reaching the peak itself. It's not about aimlessly wandering around. It is also not about pushing ourselves and saying, no, we have to reach there at 11 o'clock. Come on, let's go. And we struggle and go to the top. What's the whole point in going through that particular journey itself, which is the rat racing part of it? Okay. And this negativity is triple whammy, which is, can we have these negative thoughts, which are a majority, get minimized? So how do we generate positive thoughts? Can we generate more positive thoughts? 2, can we make these positive thoughts stick? 3rd, can we reduce the quantum of negative emotions? Okay. A definition which I read, which I quite liked on well-being, is experiencing frequent positive emotions like joy, pride, and interest with less negative emotions like anger, sadness, and anxiety. Okay. I thought it was a simple and an easy way to think about it, saying well-being is simply that. Okay. There's a general sense of optimism, joy, and lightness about ourselves as compared to anger, sadness, anxiety, fighting, and jostling for positions and stuff like that. That's about the positive thought. That is where gratitude comes in. Okay. Gratitude, I like that little graphic which says it's vitamin G. Okay. Gratitude is vitamin G. Gratitude, by definition, is the quality of being thankful and the readiness to show and appreciate for and to return kindness. And what do we need to be grateful for? We have to be grateful for our past. We have to accept the current with grace. And we have to be optimistic about the future. That's all that is there to gratitude. There are many different techniques. I'll come to that. Okay. So being grateful for the past is a key element to gratitude. What happens is because the positive emotions wash off like Teflon, there are so many things which are positive in our life. Okay. But somewhere along the way, we take those for granted. The fact that we are even born to parents who could give us 3 square meals and a roof over our head is something we need to be thankful for. In a country where 15% of the people are going hungry without a 3rd meal, okay, because they can't afford it. And to have 3 square meals and having a roof over our head is something we need to be thankful. There are plenty of things. Having 2 limbs, having an ability to think, okay, having so many different things, there is something to be very, very thankful and grateful for. and accepting the present with grace and being optimistic about the future. So gratitude is simply acknowledging the good things we have in life. Okay, because what happens with positive things is because they wash off like Teflon, they are habituating. We take it for granted. Okay, there is somebody who's cooking as a meal. We take it for granted after some time. And we sort of think it is our birthright to get that meal served to us. Somebody is helping us out in our housework. Okay, after some time, we get used to that and our domestic help, and we take it for granted and we treat them like dirt and doormats. So there are so many things, so many interactions, so many people we come across, and every one of them, they habituate and we take it for granted. It is a certain kind of privilege we think we have, and that continuously reduces our gratitude. If we are able to get back and go to all those things which are happening around us in our life, so what we are really doing is we are increasing our quantum of positive emotions. And if we have our 65, 70,000 thoughts, we are not giving enough space for our negative thoughts to really keep coming up, because there is enough and more of positive things which are happening around us. And these are not false positives. We cannot take a negative which is happening around us and say, no, 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 it will all be fine. One day it will all, that is a false positive. Okay. Having the hope it will become better is hope. That is different. But to keep thinking, no, 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 it is all fine. It will all, something will happen magically or any of those things, and imagining something, that's a false positive. So false positive is a type of ant. But what we want to get into is not a false positive. It is not denying the negative emotions we are going through. It is not artificially negating the negative emotions we are going through, but by increasing supply of the positive emotions. Increasing supply of positive emotions, the best way to do it is through gratitude. Okay. So in terms of cause and effect on gratitude, this was a fascinating piece of research and study which happened recently, which is for a very, very long period of time, it was always thought that if someone is happy, they're likely to be grateful. Okay, the person is generally happy and therefore they are quite grateful, and say whether it is an expression of thank you, not just saying thank you or something like that, but a true expression of thanking things which is around them. So the thought, it was always thought happy people are grateful. So therefore, if gratitude is the effect of happiness and happiness is the true cause, then one must really work on the cause, which is happiness directly, and gratitude will therefore follow as a byproduct. What research has told us is grateful people are happy. The causality is the exact opposite of thinking it is not happy people are grateful. People who show gratitude tend to be happy. Now, this is truly empowering, because if we can truly be grateful for the things we have, if we can be truly grateful and acknowledge all the good things we have in life, we can significantly increase our sense of well-being. Now, creating these positive emotions, if we have to create it only by way of experience, then it is both limited and time-consuming. Okay, because we can't, how many positive emotions can we create experientially? Because we have only 24 hours and some of them are going to go through in drudgery and everything else. And therefore we cannot create positive emotion only experientially, because it's both time consuming and limited. What we therefore have to do is to dig into the large repository of all our experiences collectively and go back and think about how many wonderful things have happened in our lives. How many things have shaped our lives? It could be a teacher, it could be a friend, it could be anybody. There are so many different people where people have shown kindness, people have shown compassion, people have believed in us, people have had the courage to stand for us, and every one of those things we have either forgotten or taken it for granted. If it's a relationship which is ongoing, like our family, chances are we take it for granted. We have not forgotten the person, we know the person, but we have taken the relationship for granted. If it is somebody else, like a childhood teacher or anybody else, we have probably forgotten that unless we go back and dig into that. And that is at the core of gratitude, which is going back to a repository of life experiences and truly feeling that sense of gratefulness or gratitude, the sense of the thank you to various things which have happened, not attributing every little thing positive which has happened in our life to ourselves, and to be able to allocate and attribute it to the right person is about gratitude. Now, the important thing about gratitude is I didn't honestly know it before I started doing some more work for this particular day and this particular piece of work. Sorry, I'm a single parent for my dog today, and this fellow will cry and shout. I might have to, because my daughter and wife have gone off. So, sorry, I must have declared it right up front. Okay, so he is here. So he keeps crying because he wants to go out and play. I'll do it after the session. Yeah. So when I was doing the research, I didn't really imagine that the benefits of gratitude were so wide. Okay. I will point you in the direction of some articles you can read in positive psychology, but some of the things which are very, very clear are A, it directly improves physical health. In terms of our, sugar, hypertension, cholesterol, and everything else, there is research to prove that gratitude can improve our physical health. Second, gratitude improves our quality of sleep. Okay, the feeling of being well rested dramatically improves if our gratitude is high. Improves psychological health, increases empathy, reduces aggression, and relationship. So if you can go back and look at the PERMA model and bring it back here, we can see the positive emotion, the level of engagement, more social connection, and better relationship. Okay, many of those things will get integrated here and say the benefits of gratitude are many, and some of these are there. Okay. This is another slide I borrowed from the internet. I thought it was very relevant, the way it put it very neatly in terms of our physical health. What happens if you have a strong sense of gratitude? What happens emotionally, and what happens socially? And the last couple of slides is the Mindfulness Awareness Research Center in UCLA said that gratitude, in fact, it's the same idea as neuroplasticity. In fact, it fundamentally alters our brain and regulates effective functioning of our immune system. Okay. It also changes the way we see the world, which is all about perception and some of the things. So while I always knew gratitude as a very powerful embodying tool, I simply did not know that it had so many positive effects, just developing a sense of gratitude. Now, how do we practice gratitude? The first thing is you cannot love others or be kind to others unless we can be kind to ourselves and love ourselves truly. Not being, kind to ourselves in the sense indulgent, but in terms of being truly kind to ourselves, in terms of saying it's right. So one of the small exercises it says is after you brush your teeth or your shower or whatever it is, appreciating yourself, ideally in front of a mirror, you see the person you're appreciating and say it loud. One or two good things you want to say about yourself, look in front of the mirror and say it loud. Okay, I know it is difficult. I've been too shy to do it ever. Okay, I've not done it ever in my life because it's way too weird and I was too shy. Maybe one day I should try and do it, but it feels very odd and weird and everything else. So I haven't overcome my shyness to be able to do that. And I haven't done this. The second, which is a gratitude journal, which is fairly straightforward, which is having a small notebook, okay, where you write down, this is one tiny thing. You can do it in whichever way you want. I do it somewhat differently. So the compliments I would like to give myself today, people I'm grateful for, the challenges I'm learning from, you see growth mindset integrates here, and significant assets of my life at present. Okay. I find gratitude journal a good idea, but I normally tend to give gratitude by just closing my eyes and just spending a little bit of time. That's the way I seem to practice it, but everybody's practice will be different. I don't have a journal as such for gratitude, though I kind of make it a point to at least remember and be grateful once a day, if not twice or thrice a day. The third one is what is called gratitude visits. These are people who have had profound influence in our lives. Okay, so there is a teacher. I come from a small town called Trichy. There is a teacher of mine who has had a significant and a profound impact on me. He was a science teacher of mine, had that. Okay, and I've spoken to him many times. I established contact. I spoke to him and all that kind of thing. This time when I went to Trichy, I had 1.5 days. Okay, for some reason or the other, I filled up my schedule with all kinds of other things, and I did not schedule any time to visit my teacher. Okay, I feel sort of ashamed of having done something like that. And the next time I told myself that I will definitely visit him. Okay, gratitude visits is about just going and spending a few minutes with people who have profoundly impacted your life positively. And the fourth one is a gratitude list, which is simply remembering all the people who've been part. I'm grateful to some person for something. Okay. And finally, it's called reminiscence meditation. It's a bit of a Western sort of an idea. It's essentially close your eyes and remember. Okay. It's about same thing as the gratitude list. Close your eyes and remember the people you are grateful for, and express to the people you're grateful for, visit people you're grateful for. Because the Stoic philosopher Cicero said, gratitude is not just the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. Okay. So thank you. And that's all I have for today. And I said it's a short session, but it doesn't look like it took a lot longer than